Today in the workshop, we'll take a look back at 2020 and a look at what's in store for 2021. Happy New Year from the DroneBot Workshop. Well, hello and welcome to the workshop and welcome to 2021. I hope that you are having a happy new year and that you're looking forward to a new and exciting year that will hopefully be a little better than the year that we just had. Now, it's no secret that a lot of people had plans for 2020 that didn't quite come to fruition, and I would have to say that I'm one of them. I planned on putting out a lot more videos than I did, but I did get a few of them out, and I'm not going to beat myself up for it. But in 2021, I really want to move forward and cover a whole bunch of new and exciting subjects. And that's what I want to show you today. I want to show you some of the things that we are going to be working on here in the workshop in 2021. But before I do that, I did do a few things in 2020, and I wanted to go and do a quick review of them. So let's go and take a look at what happened in the workshop in 2020. In 2020, we looked at the ESP32, a remarkable 32-bit microcontroller that can be used with the Arduino IDE. It has integrated Wi-Fi and Bluetooth capabilities. We also looked at the ESP32 Cam, a version of the ESP32 with an integrated camera. We saw how we could use an FTDI adapter to program this device. Another look at the ESP32 involved connecting servo motors to it. We saw how we could connect them directly and via I2C. We even built a web-based interface to allow us to control a servo motor from a remote location. And I built an ESP32 Cam Experimenters module. This allows easier experimenting with the ESP32, and this concept could be used for other microcontrollers as well, as it also has an integrated power supply. It wasn't all microcontrollers last year. We also looked at basic digital logic gates, and we saw how we could use them on their own or with an Arduino to enhance its performance. We also looked at another class of logic chip, the shift register, and we saw how we could use this with an Arduino to expand the number of input and output ports. Of course, the Raspberry Pi always has a place in the DroneBot Workshop, and last year we took a detailed look at Raspberry Pi cases. We measured both their thermal and their RF performance. We also looked at Raspberry Pi cameras, including the new high-quality Raspberry Pi camera. We saw how we could use the camera with our Python code, and we compared the performance of a number of different cameras. And we took a look at the Raspberry Pi GPIO, the General Purpose Input-Output Bus. We saw how we could control devices on the bus using our Python code, and how we could also use the code to control the Raspberry Pi camera. Of course, we used the Arduino in many of our experiments last year. We used a couple of different color sensors to see how we could measure RGB values. We also used a variety of temperature sensors that connect to the Arduino, and some of them have incredible degrees of accuracy. We examined the use of matrix keypads and saw how they could work with the Arduino. We even used one to build a simple combination lock. And we learned how to control AC current with the Arduino, with the emphasis on safety. We saw how we could use standard relays as well as solid-state relays and relay modules. We even examined one that didn't require any wiring to the AC at all. And we also looked at the Arduino Xiao, a SAMD21 based microcontroller that has much greatly improved performance over an Arduino. We saw how we could perform basic experiments and use the device with the Arduino IDE. And so that was 2020 in the DroneBot Workshop, and as you can see, we did work on a number of different things. But we have some new things to work on in this new year, and I want to show you those right now. However, don't fear, we're still going to be working with Arduinos and Raspberry Pis as well, but we have also some exciting technologies that I want to share with you. And they're over here in this workbench, so let's go and take a peek at them right now. Now, one thing that we did look at last year was the Arduino Xiao. It's a very powerful little microcontroller that's very inexpensive and has a lot of Arduino compatibility. And I've got a number of Arduino Xiaos here. It's a 3-pack over here, and these are individual packages of Arduino Xiaos. They almost look like something that you would get at the checkout counter at the supermarket in a way. This is a Grove shield for the Arduino Xiao, and it allows you to use Grove sensors and plug them directly into this board and then connect them to the Arduino. And this is a very cute little board. You can snap it off over here if you only want 4 of the sensors. You get a power switch, etc. And as you can see, I've got a Arduino Xiao mounted into this one. Now, the Xiao is based around the SAMD21 processor, and we're going to be looking at a number of boards with the SAMD21. There's one that I have over here, and you would be forgiven if you just mistook this for another Arduino Xiao because it's got the same form factor, and as a matter of fact it has the same pinout, so it's pin for pin compatible. But this is by Adafruit, and it's called a QT Pi, as in QT and then PY. And the PY is for Circuit Python, because these boards, like the Xiao, are capable of also being run with Circuit Python instead of the C++ code that we use with the Arduino IDE. And we're going to be taking a look at Circuit Python this year here in the workshop, and boards like the Adafruit QT Pi. Now, I've got another SAMD21 board over here. I've got a few of these Arduino Nano 33 IoT boards, and as you can probably guess from the name, these boards are actually great for Internet of Things projects. These also use the SAMD21. They have a lot of the same pinout as the original Arduino Nano, but of course, being based on the SAMD21, they are much faster. And these have also got integrated Bluetooth and Wi-Fi on them, which the Xiao and the QT Pi do not have. So for IoT projects, these are really great little boards, and you're going to be seeing a lot of these SAMD21 projects this year here in the DroneBot Workshop. Now, we've really been moving up in the workshop in terms of the power of our microcontroller boards. We started off using the Arduino AVR series of boards, and those boards use an 8-bit microcontroller. And then we moved up to the ESP32 board and the Arduino Xiao, and those use 32-bit microcontrollers. While we're taking an even higher leap in 2021, and we're going to be looking at a number of boards based around the K210 processor, and this is a 64-bit microcontroller, and it excels at what is called edge computing. Edge computing is where we do things like image and voice recognition, and instead of going up to the cloud or to another device, we do it right there on that board. And that's what these kits are for, and I've actually got 4 of them over here. Now, this is one of them that comes with a board that has the K210 on it. It comes with a display that you can use, and it comes with a little camera that you can attach to it as well. And this one over here is essentially the same board. It's already got the camera attached to it, but it also has built-in Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, so they give you an antenna, and on the back over here they have a connector for the Bluetooth and the Wi-Fi antenna. So for IoT projects, this one is great. Now, this board over here, again based on the K210, also comes with a display. It comes with a much nicer camera than the other 2 boards, and this one has more of a form factor of an ESP32 board. And on the back over here, you can also see it has a micro SD card, so this could also be very useful for a lot of edge computing applications. And this one is really neat. This is also based upon the K210, K210, but it also includes an ESP32, so it has Bluetooth and Wi-Fi connectivity through the ESP32, and amazing processor power with the K210. And the form factor of this board, you can probably notice, is the same as the Arduino Uno. In fact, the pinouts are the same as the Arduino Uno, and so you may even be able to repurpose some of your Uno shields, or at least some of your prototyping boards, with this one over here. And here's the camera on this board as well. So edge computing using the K210 processor is definitely in the future for the DroneBot Workshop, so you'll want to make certain to stay tuned for that, because this is a very cost-effective way to get into artificial intelligence and edge computing. Now, last year I introduced you to the ESP32 CAM, which is an amazing little microcontroller board based around an ESP32 that also has a camera as well as a micro SD card and a flash, and I even put together a little development module to use with it. And those who saw that video might notice I've changed the front of it so that I've got the ESP32 going sideways, so the picture is the right way up. And this module is a great thing to play with, and I'll be using it some more in a few of my other videos. In fact, one I'm filming right now uses this very piece. But there's another ESP32 based camera I want to use this year as well, and this is called the ESP Eye. Now, that's I as in EYE for the camera that's on it. Now, it's an ESP32 board with an onboard camera. One thing that's probably too small for you to see, but it's at the bottom, is it also has a microphone. And this board is neat in that it is just about the same size, in fact a bit tinier than the ESP32 CAM. It's a bit thinner, but it also has integrated USB connectivity, so you don't need the external FTDI adapter as I did on this one over here. Now, one disadvantage of this board is it only has a minimal number of I/O connections. It really doesn't have too many of them at all, but for things like a spy camera type of an application, this is a perfect little board. So we're going to be taking a look at the ESP Eye this year in the DroneBot Workshop. Now, the NVIDIA Jetson Nano was a very popular item here in the DroneBot Workshop, and this year we're going to continue working with it in the form of this little thing, and this is a Jetbot. Now, a Jetbot is a small robot based around an NVIDIA Jetson Nano. In fact, you can see the Nano on top of it over here. Now, you can build a Jetbot using discrete parts and the plans from NVIDIA. You could even 3D print the chassis, but I chose to buy a kit instead, and this is a Jetbot kit made by Waveshare. I put it together, and as you can see, a Jetbot doesn't have any external sensors such as ultrasonic sensors like we use on our other small robots. This has a video camera, and it relies upon image recognition to find out whether it should drive over an object or around an object. And you need to train your Jetbot. So what we will be doing is not only putting together a Jetbot, but also learning how to train it. And in the process, we'll learn about things like neural networks and image recognition. And speaking of neural networks and image recognition, I have another board over here. Now, this is a small microcomputer board, similar to many microcomputer boards in that it has a 40-pin GPIO that is Raspberry Pi compatible. And on the side over here, you can see it's got some USB ports, it's got an HDMI output, and it's got Ethernet. This also has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. So far this looks like a lot of the small microcomputer boards that we're used to using, but this has a couple of other features that I haven't seen on other microcomputer boards. Now, this board is made by a company called K210, and this is the VIM3 Pro. And on the back over here, you'll see one of the features, and that's this connector up over here. This is an M.2 connector, which allows you to directly plug in an M.2 solid-state drive. So you can plug an SSD SSD directly into this, and that is really something I would like to see on more microcomputer boards. I know you can use the USB ports or SSDs on other ones like the Raspberry Pi, but having it direct is really a great advantage in my opinion. But another thing this board has, and why I have it out here with my Jetbot, is it has, in addition to its CPU, it has an NPU, a neural processing unit, and this is a dedicated piece of hardware that is made specifically for running neural networks. Now this board can run Android and it can also run Linux, and I've been playing around with it, and you'll be seeing this one soon in the DroneBot Workshop. Now, one thing that you'll be learning about soon here in the DroneBot Workshop is microphone arrays. Microphone arrays, as the name would imply, is a collection of 2 or more microphones, and these are used for voice recognition applications. The reason for using an array is that you can get improved performance from the voice recognition because you don't have to be talking directly into a microphone. You can also use it to distinguish sounds such as a speaker from the background noise, and this is how devices like the Amazon and Google devices work in your living room even when you have the television on in the background. And an array can also be used if it has enough microphones to distinguish the direction that the sound is coming from. And so we'll be looking at using arrays with voice recognition. Now I've got a few of them over here. They're all called re-speakers, at least these 3 are, and this is a device made for the Raspberry Pi. It's got a Raspberry Pi hat, and it's got an array that has 6 microphones and also happens to have 12 LEDs on it, and it has a connecting cable that looks very similar to the Raspberry Pi camera cable to connect the 2 devices together. This is a device that has 4 microphones on it, and it can be used with pretty well any processor, not just a Raspberry Pi. And this one over here is another Raspberry Pi hat. It's got 2 microphones on it, and as you'll notice, it's very small. It's been sized out to work with the Raspberry Pi Zero or any Raspberry Pi. Now this device is not a Raspberry Pi device. This is a self-contained device, and this is made by SparkFun in conjunction with Google. And this device over here has 2 microphones on it, but it is also used for edge computing. It also has place for a coin cell on the back, and it's called the SparkFun Edge. It has a connector for a camera on it, and you can use this for voice recognition without having to go to an external device, and it'll just respond to simple commands like yes and no, etc. But if you just need a basic voice recognition module, these are very inexpensive and very neat to work with, and they are powered by TensorFlow because this is a project that was done in conjunction with Google. So these are all very interesting devices that you're going to be seeing soon here in the DroneBot Workshop. Now another thing that we're going to get into in 2021 here in the workshop are things like I have behind me on this workbench, and these are Internet of Things. Internet of Things. Anyway, these devices can do all sorts of things. I have controllers over here from both Amazon and Google. I've got a doorbell with a camera in it. Got all kinds of light bulbs over here, and there are also switches and plugs and things, and these can be controlled via IoT. Now I'm going to do a series on IoT, but I'm going to make it a bit different than some of the other series you may have seen before. I am, of course, going to explain how they work and talk about IoT security, which is an extremely important thing to talk about. But because we are the DroneBot Workshop, we are also going to build our own things in order to interface with these devices and these controllers. We'll also look at building some things that do not have to go out to the internet to achieve the same purpose, because a lot of people, myself included, are a little bit worried about just how much information we are sharing with companies like Amazon and Google. For example, every time someone rings my doorbell, or for that matter, every time they walk up my front sidewalk, Amazon is aware of it. And that's a little bit too much information to be sharing with big companies, at least it is for me. So we'll look at building some IoT things that don't really need the internet, that can be controlled from within our home. So I'm hoping that you'll join me for that series. I intend to start it in about a month as I install these things into my own home. Now, in addition to the items I've shown you, there are some other things that I've been working on that don't have to do with the YouTube channel. As most of you know, the DroneBot Workshop also has a website at dronebotworkshop.com and a forum where we can discuss all sorts of technical things. And these are resources that I've provided in order to assist you to learn more about the technologies that we're working with and get answers to your questions. Well, I've got another resource that I'm working on, and it's also an online resource. It's not ready yet, so I'm not ready to announce it, but I'm quite excited about it. I've been working on it for most of 2020, and it should be out relatively soon, I'd say in the next 2 or 3 months. And so stay tuned for an announcement about that. Another thing I've been working on, and this is sort of a life project of mine, something I've really been excited about, is also hopefully going to come to fruition this year. And when it does, it's going to be something very different than anything I've done before. And the first people who find out about this will be the people who have subscribed to my newsletter. It's my way of thanking them for their support by subscribing to the newsletter. Now, if you haven't subscribed to the newsletter yet, please do. You'll find the link below the video to do that. It's absolutely free, and it's not a sales letter. It's just my way of keeping you updated as to what's going on here in the workshop. And finally, I wanted to say a few words about another project, one that has kind of been on hold for about a year, something that went into isolation during the pandemic just like I did, and that would be the DB1 robot project. DB1 is not dead. It is not put away. It was resting for a while, but for the last couple of months, I have been rebuilding it. And by rebuilding it, I mean redesigning it. So you're going to be seeing DB1 again this year, but it'll look a little different than what you saw before. At least the design will be quite different. After all, it is a prototype, and I have some other technologies that I'm going to use in lieu of some of the ones that I've already implemented. And so I'll probably call this DB 1.1, and you can look forward to seeing that sometime in 2021. Now, you'll also be seeing some changes to the videos on YouTube, and these changes will affect the old videos as well as the ones going forward. And by changes, what I mean is I'm going to be implementing a feature that YouTube brought out last year called YouTube Chapters. Now, I did use these in my last video, the very long one I did about building a developer's workstation. And what chapters are is they're just a way that you can skim over the bottom of the video and jump directly to the section that you want without having to watch the whole video or to hunt and peck. Now, all of the videos always have had a clickable table of contents, and that will still be there as well. But you can look forward to seeing the videos being modified for chapters within the next couple of weeks. Another change within the next couple of weeks is something that was suggested to me by some folks on the DroneBot Workshop forum. And the forum is a great way to discuss things that we talk about here in the workshop. And if you're not a member yet, I'd urge you to go and join the forum. And on the forum, it was suggested that why don't we create a post for every single one of the videos, and then we can discuss them. And I think it's a wonderful idea because I haven't really had the time to go through and answer all the wonderful comments that people make on my videos. And so if you want to have a bit more information or discuss the videos further, the forum is going to be the place to do it. And again, as I add chapters to the previous videos, I'll also be moving them onto a post in the forum where we can discuss it. So just a couple of things to look forward to in the next upcoming weeks. One other issue I want to address while I have your attention today is the subject of beginners content. I get a lot of email from people asking me about doing some beginner level content, and I would really like to accommodate them. I realize everyone has to start somewhere, and some people ask some very basic questions that indicate clearly the need for this kind of content. However, I'm also sensitive to the fact that this may be a turnoff to some of you who are looking more for things like the ESP32 and the K210. And so I put a questionnaire out on my forum, a poll, and I asked people, what do you think about beginners level content? Should I do it on the same channel? Should I perhaps create a second YouTube channel for it, or a second venue, something like Udemy or something? And the response so far has been pretty well. Yes, we'd like to see beginners level content as well as the higher level content on the same channel. Now, if you'd like to participate in that poll, it's still active right now, at least as of the filming of this video it is, and you can go to the DroneBot Workshop forum and give me your opinion there. But I just want to assure you that you are going to indeed be seeing some beginners level content this year, along with some of the higher level stuff that we're doing. Now, one other thing that I want to do an episode about in this upcoming year is some of the cool tools that you can use in your workshop. I've purchased a number of really neat ones, a couple of different things that go beyond just your regular soldering irons and screwdrivers. In fact, I'll show you one here right now. This is my favorite tool that I purchased in 2020, and I don't know if anybody even knows what this is. It is not a kettle, but this thing is going to save me time, it's going to save me money, and it even does its part in saving the environment. So you're going to have to stay tuned to hear about that. The best way to stay tuned, of course, is to subscribe to the YouTube channel. So if you haven't done that, please do so. All you need to do is click on the subscribe button, and then after that also hit the little bell notification, and that way you will get notified every time that I make a new video. Now, if I had to go back over the last year and think about the things that I missed, the things that I couldn't do, two of them come to mind. One that is kind of weird and one that is kind of obvious. The obvious one being is I'd really love to go out and get a haircut. I last got my haircut on the 28th of February, and I've been doing it myself, been trimming it every day. My mother says it doesn't look that bad, but of course she's my mother. She would say that anyway, so I'll leave you to be the judge on that one. And the other thing is the weird one. I'd really like to go to the dollar store. I love the dollar store, and the dollar store isn't online, so as soon as this is over, I'm heading off to the dollar store. Before I head off to the dollar store, before the year is over, I do want to say right now, thank you so much to each and every one of you for your support over the last year and the years before that. It really does mean a lot to me, and I hope that you are taking good care of yourself and staying safe. We will get through this thing eventually. There are vaccines out there, so the light at the end of the tunnel is getting closer every day. And I'm going to leave you right now with a look at some of those pandemic haircuts that I went through in the last year. And with that, take care, and I'll see you soon here in the workshop. Goodbye for now.